Welcome back to my channel at Intellectual Reads. My name is Dennis and I'm going to do another review. Another book, another week. So this week I read The Spirit of Science Fiction, a novel by Roberto Bolano. This is one of his after death found texts that was translated by, give me a second here, by Natasha Wimmer. I think she translates most of his works. I saw this at the library because one Sunday a couple of weeks ago I decided to take a stroll into the library instead of a bookstore because God knows I have way too many books, especially ones that I've unread. But I don't mind that because whenever I need something or want to curate interesting readings, I always have many things here that can find itself within a topic that I'm interested in. So I love having hundreds of books unread, because one day we'll get there. And if we don't, that means we found even better books. So I didn't want to buy any more books and it was a weekend, so I strolled into the library and I picked up this text. I'm sure everybody has a certain amount of authors that they gravitate to. Authors they've either read throughout their life or at a certain period of life. I have such authors. Hemingway, like I'm really into D.H. Lawrence right now, or in Tomak. The Russian classics, Tolstoy, I love Dostoevsky. I've read a lot of the works by Proust. Anyway, this isn't like a list to brag. Not that I would brag, but the point being is that there are authors you love. What is the point again? The point being is that there are authors you absolutely love, but you don't want to kill. And what I mean by that is that, for me at least, I always like to read some part of their fiction still unread. So I actually enjoy when literature comes out or is found by the author that wasn't found before, only because it means that there's more of him to read. I often feel comfortable in the author's prose, his stories, his themes that prevail. So I don't mind if it's a lesser fiction based on other people's consideration, because it still kind of takes me home to what I know and expect from a person. And that's why I'm so happy that there's works being published even after his death, because that only means that I get to spend more time in Roberto Bolano's head. I picked this book up and decided to read it because it's only 14 days left. I can't buy a book. I can't do things with library books like I can when I spend my hard-earned cash, like storing a book on a shelf for 4 to 5 years. Here I got 14 days, and so I picked this up and read it rather quickly, which was about 200 pages, 197 if I'm not mistaken. And now I'm coming to you with a review of it only because I think this book is awesome. Having read the larger texts by Bolano, such as 266, The Savage Detectives, and then some of his shorter books, what most interested me about this work, though, is that it was believed to be one of his first ever written works, his first work. So I came in here expecting an unpolished craft, so to speak. Instead, I got taken on a wild ride that blew my socks off. There's a lot packed into this little text. A lot of neat experiences, a lot of wild experiences, a lot of living life on the edge. And the most enjoyable part of this text was that as a reader who has read much of him, you can see many of the ideas that he will explore in his larger text. And it's interesting that all of the ideas that he will later go on to explore, and his themes and the environments he creates and the landscape he focuses on, and kind of having a detective theme to the book, while also being fascinated by Nazis, and all these other ideas that are found throughout his text are all like here. And all these ideas are here within this book, within his first written fiction piece, and they're in little buds, so to speak, and you can see them waiting to grow into large, epic tomes of books that he will later in his life captivate hundreds of readers with, hundreds, thousands, have a cult following. And so I thoroughly enjoyed that aspect of it, because this is almost like all those books in one, and it was just one quick bright explosion with different scenes and different things thrown at you, and then before you knew it, you were on the last page and you were happy as fuck, and you said, you know what, this is a little break from any kind of intensive fiction with huge themes and stuff you learn about yourself, stuff you learn about humanity. No, this is just a wild fucking ride that you fucking loved, and that you're like, yes, you cleansed my palate in a way. You didn't make me think, you didn't make me contemplate things, but the images you threw in my face are the images that I still think of, and I still kind of, jaw-droppingly am fascinated by, and left to ponder and to enjoy and to reshape in my mind for days to come after. In this work we follow a poet by the name of Rino Moreno and his friend, who is a science fiction writer by the name of Jan Shrella. So we have these two friends who travel from Chile, and they come to Mexico to explore their art, to kind of grow with the culture, because they feel like this is a fertile land for writers where they can make their own name, and wherever that may lead them, so it may. There's an interesting dichotomy here, because you find that you kind of learn about the poet through his actions, through his movements, through going on a detective chase of why are there so many new creative writing classes and journals being around, through his love affairs, through his times at random bathhouses, and through all these experiences you're painted and portrayed with interesting scenes, sometimes way out there scenes where you can't even comprehend in what world they're happening, but they seem to be happening to him in this magical place of Mexico. And then you get the other side, the science fiction writer side, Jan's side. The only way we learned about him is through his letters to random science fiction writers that he's extraordinarily fascinated with. In these letters he pitches ideas, he asks them about their books, sometimes writing his own interpretations of them, and through these letters you get the idea of who Jan is. And I found it interesting because I think here you get both worlds on opposite ends that Roberto is trying to portray here. He's trying to portray the poet as a living organism, one that experiences it, experiences life and takes the juices out of it, kind of lives it to the fullest. And then you get the other side where you get the science fiction writer who's, within his works is kind of thought to explore lands and climates that don't exist in this world, in worlds created by other people. And so the only way he can experience the worlds that fascinate him is sort of by being drawn in, by never going outside, by always being in his head, writing letters, reading these books. The only way you can enter those worlds is sort of on the inside. You find them through your own solitude. So you get this interesting dichotomy of how two writers who are friends and have a lot in common, as you would in a craft, but at the same time they're so different because the environment, kind of their work, their devotion is found in are vastly different. One is a living environment, the other one is almost sort of dead or inaccessible, unapproachable, which makes the person kind of an outcast and one who withdraws to his own world in the quietness of his own room. So I thought it was an interesting study of how people within the same craft can sort of be forced to live completely different lives while providing many interesting scenes on one end, and on the other end introducing you to a wide array of science fiction writers through these letters. Overall, I enjoyed this book. I think I actually gave it a 5 out of 5 just because it kind of did what it was supposed to do, and for me it did it at a time that I wanted it done. Getting my head away from sophisticated literature, allowing me to kick back my legs and enjoy something that might not be as deep, but still, you know, being inside a genius head is still being inside a genius head. And I do think that Roberto Bolano is out of this world creative, and that the stuff that goes in, or that went in his head, is just, he had to be on a lot of drugs. I'm convinced he must have been on drugs every single fucking day in order to write shit like this. So would I recommend that you read it? I would. If you're in for a wild ride and you want to be stuck in some land that, you know, only very few people in our lifetime, maybe Quentin Tarantino, can imagine, along with Robert Bolano, and you're gonna just enjoy the fucking ride, find yourself some amazingly creative and out of this world scenes, and then put the book down and walk away from it focused on the experiences you gained rather than, you know, fuller understanding of humanity or anything like that, or any kind of issues broached that may concern the world today. This is a rude book. It has a lot of stereotypes. It is not kind to people for their inclinations or their race or their sex. You know, it kind of tells it how it is, how it was back in Mexico during these times that he lived, and it makes you question whether, you know, these things really happened to him or how much of it, you know, was based on his own life. But certainly fascinating, a fucking wild ride, and deeply enjoyable. So that's about it. Thanks for watching. I hope it wasn't too brash, and I hope that some of you will at least give this book a shot, because I do really genuinely think that there are people who are seriously going to enjoy it, especially if they delve deep into it and, you know, find resources maybe that can give them more about the life of this author. It adds another kind of, you know, layer to the story, but this story certainly doesn't lack for layers. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe, you know, like, do all those things that I always forget to mention at the end of the video. We're at 100 subscribers. Can you believe it? I can't fucking believe that 100 people actually subscribe to the channel and are interested enough to click on links that take, you know, some time, or at least take up their most precious time, which is their free time. So thank you again, and see you guys soon. I should be posting another video pretty soon about what I'm planning to read in June, which will include a book read along and other good and nifty stuff. Have a good one.